All right, guys, welcome back to another podcast with myself and Kyle. A bit of a different one this week. We're going to be chatting about a few interesting topics. Mostly going to be talking about Agustin Pichot, who wants to be controlling World Rugby, and his thoughts on what he would like to do. And we're going to give our thoughts on that. Kyle, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad. Brandon, yourself, how you keeping?
Yeah, good, good. Really interested to get into this chat about Pichot. He's got some interesting ideas of how he wants to lead World Rugby. And to really change things up, we've had the same guy in charge in Bill Bowman for a while now. But what do you think about Pichot's idea of, first of all, let's talk about having the same rugby calendar for Northern and Southern Hemisphere? Because at the minute, obviously, the Northern Hemisphere season runs from September all the way through till May, and then the Southern Hemisphere runs from March until December. So are you in favour of it, or do you quite enjoy having the difference?
I'm well. Obviously, I'm actually kind of in favour of them being a bit of a difference, but I understand like where in some way Pichot's trying to come from because he wants to get this Nations Cup where there's all the nations playing together, which I'm personally against. Maybe just being a bit of a traditionalist. I'm not really in favour of that. But no, I mean, I'm okay with like I'm okay with like the differences as they are. Albeit, I think there is an argument to be made at the club level for there to be maybe less rugby and possibly introduce a break around the winter time for like say about roughly a month, like they do in some leagues in football. Because mainly just because of like the absolute sheer intensity you're expected to play at for the best part of like 8 or 9 months a season. It's ferocious with only a couple of rests in between now and then. But so I mean, I would, and obviously because the two different continents you've got to take into account as well. With regards to weather, of course, because ours, goes into starts around autumn, and then theirs starts at their summer and goes through all the way to to the end of the year, kind of thing. Pardon me. So I mean, I wouldn't be in favour of that being changed entirely. Just more. Maybe I would personally go for maybe more breaks, as I said. But I'm personally, again, this is just a traditionalist in me. I would not be in favour of the Rugby Big Nations Championship, which I understand is what Pichot's aiming for. So yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I got to agree with you, mate. The idea of having the big nations trophy that Pichot talked about, something I'm completely against. It's not a new idea. There was someone who came out a few years ago saying that they'd be interested in doing it. I think it was the top 12 ranked teams in the world. So teams such as Samoa, Tonga, I believe the USA, certainly Canada would miss out. And so these teams who are really emerging and doing some good stuff would not be able to get that game time against quality opposition, because we know in whatever you do, if you want to be good at something, you need to play against the best to improve and learn where you're weakest. And that's why the tests in the autumn, so Wales will always tend to host a Pacific Island team, or the Argentinians, but I don't think you consider Argentina a tier 2 nation anymore. But always a Pacific nation comes over to the UK and plays against some top teams. And we saw that there's progress. Fiji beat France for the first time ever and did it in Paris, last November, I believe, or the November before, back in 2018. So there's progress being made. The idea of having the calendar the same, I can see the attraction of that, because everything then falls in together. So the internationals all happen at the same time. Everyone's had the same amount of time to train together, etc., etc. But again, the weather is the issue, isn't it?
Well, but both the weather, I think, geographically as well, you've got to think about it. The only way it might work geographically, because there's no way like you're going to go from Scotland 1 week all the way down to Argentina the next week and be at your very best with all that travelling like just 1 week apart. It's it's just not human like that. That expectation on the players as well, I just wouldn't think work. The only way it might work, I think, is if say like the southern like they do in the autumn, like kind of thing, with the southern hemisphere come over for a set period, and then all the games are played in the north, and then like there's a couple of weeks break or something, then it goes all the way down to the south for the next second phase or something like that. Was the only way I could see that working, because geographically it's impossible, and the weather issue as well. I mean, some folk might say that's irrelevant, but it's just the way the rugby calendar is, and I think it mostly works quite well. So yeah, I mean, but
I think like with the weather, that is a big issue. Like if you want to play fast flowing attacking rugby, the weather for England against Scotland this year's Six Nations is not the type of weather that you want. So, but then let's say that a team from the Southern Hemisphere then gets to play in the summer. For them, it's their summertime, and they're playing this fast-flowing rugby. And then a Northern Hemisphere team then goes down. They've been playing a different style of rugby because of the weather, and they've had to keep the ball close. So suddenly have to go into different time.
Man. I think. Sorry, carry on.
That's fine. Yeah. So the weather will make a massive difference, I think, and I personally would be about keeping it the same, but I can see the attraction with having the internationals all at the same time. It makes sense with pretty much everything. I mean, football, for the most part, has it all in the same, except for the MLS, which obviously is a summer sport for them over there. But it's going to be interesting to see what Pichot really wants to do.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's. I don't think you can bring football into this argument for the defence, really, in my opinion, just because they're two totally different sports, just totally different sports. Yeah. So to compare it to that, and I think that's my problem, is rugby gets compared too much to football in that regard, and with the game, the professional game getting even more and more professional, it just but they're different sports, different physical requirements. I mean, rugby's far more physical, and you put your body through so much more than you do in football. So for the player welfare's sake, that's why I don't think it works as well in rugby. But
I think I got to agree with you there as well. Obviously, it's a lot more of a physical sport. Thinking about the Tier 2 nations, what Pichot wants to do there, it's kind of contradictory in many ways. He's talking about really supporting the Tier 2 nations, but then wanting to create this 12 nations trophy, or whatever he wants to call it. Because, again, teams, as I said before, USA, Canada, probably Samoa and Tonga will miss out. Likely that countries such as Uruguay, who really showed a lot of heart in the World Cup, who put in some good performances, they need the money. They need to be playing against Argentina regularly. That is something that can be organised, that can be sorted. They need to be playing against teams that are really going to challenge them and that they are going to have a tough time against. But yeah, it's interesting. I'd love to see these Tier 2 nations getting more support, because if you think about it, you think of the talent that's in the Fiji squad, for instance, and you think of the ability that's there. If they can just get a little bit more money in, a little bit more organisation in the way they play, but also a top quality coach, then they're incredible. We've seen what the Sevens side can do. I know Sevens and 15 is a completely different game. I know that. But they can get a good coach in, as they did with Ben Ryan, for the Sevens, then they could really become a force. But that's whole another conversation about Fiji and the growth in the Pacific nations. But because I think they should have a Super Rugby team there, but that's another conversation.
Aye. Well, there's talks of the Super Rugby calendar changing, but I don't know if that's happening. But I mean, and I know we're going to go into promotion relegation a bit later, but with regards to Tier 2 nations, that's where I think it wouldn't be such a bad idea for in the Southern Hemisphere. They have maybe the Rugby Championship as normal. They're talking about adding other teams there. If it's possible for them to add Japan or Fiji, and then have a second league behind that, where you have your Samoas, Tongas, Uruguay. I don't see why Uruguay can't compete, because Argentina, they're quite close by. You could argue the same for the United States and Canada as well, maybe, even though they're a bit further north of the globe. But so that's
I think a lot of these Tier 2 nations need that competitive game time, because if you're the USA and you're playing against Guatemala, you're just not going to get anything out of it. It's too easy. You're not tested. You're not really able to try anything and know that's going to work, because the opposition is so weak. For these Tier 2 nations to really push, I actually kind of like that idea of what you're suggesting there, of having Uruguay, Tonga, Samoa maybe, putting in maybe the Canada and the States as well. putting them in there could be really, really interesting to see what they do. We've got it in Europe already, so we've got the thing below the Six Nations where you have Romania, you got Russia, you got Germany, Portugal, and Spain are in there. And Romania have been winning that consistently for the past few years, with Russia pushing them that little bit. Yeah, I think it would be a really interesting idea to see in the Southern Hemisphere. And again, putting that promotion and relegation into that would be a really interesting idea to really push these countries. Because we'll move on to the Six Nations now. You look at Italy. If we're being totally realistic, Italy are not going to win the Six Nations in the next 10 years, in my opinion. I don't think.
The next 40, maybe.
Yeah, even that. So, what do Italy truly have to fight for? Obviously, you know, they may not finish bottom and things like that. France have shown they can finish bottom. Scotland as well. Wales in the past has certainly shown that. So, what do Italy truly have to fight for? So, putting in a relegation and a promotion where maybe the team from the bottom of the Six Nations faces the team on the top of the European Championships, I think it's called. I think that's what it's called. So probably will be Romania or Russia maybe, although Spain and Portugal have shown a little bit recently. Would be really interesting to see, because Romania or Russia would have nothing to lose, but the team in the Six Nations would have to fight for their lives to ensure they're in there the next year. So that's my opinion. What do you think about promotion and relegation?
I don't think it's a case of had nothing to lose. I think because I think, you know, if they don't get in, you know, sort of be gutted. But no, I mean, I'm generally, I think I've said I used to be a bit skeptical of it, but now I'm more in favour of it, especially when you see likes of Italy and Argentina in the Rugby Championship now as well, getting you know, beaten majority of the time. I think it would be a positive for both sides of the globe. As you're saying, it would give. I mean, in terms of the second tier that are coming up, I'm not entirely agreeing with you who say they've got nothing to lose, but I'm in agreement with you when you say likes of, you know, if it's Italy or Argentina Rugby Championship, they'd have an awful lot more to lose if that was in place. So yeah, I'd be in favour of it. I just think you know, it's a difficult one also, because sometimes what if it just becomes like a promotion relegation thing, like it's like in the Six Nations, for example, it's Italy go down, they've lost all their games, then they lose the playoff. The other nation comes up, like say it's Georgia, Romania, whoever it is, they come up and then they lose their games, they back out. It just could be a swing saw between the bottom, and you know, there's a danger of like a sort of London Welsh situations. Obviously, for those who don't know, London Welsh, when they were in the Premiership 5-6 years ago, they lost every match. I think they lost every match as far as I know. And they were just basically there as the whipping boys, didn't have the resources, didn't have the funding, didn't have the facilities able for the Premiership at the time. So there's that to take into account as well, because that wouldn't become fun if it's just the same teams coming up and down. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And the other thing then is you have to think about, okay, that's here too. So maybe Georgia are consistently getting promoted, for instance, and maybe they're bouncing between them and Italy all the time. How does that truly benefit countries such as Russia, Portugal, Germany? Because realistically, they're not going to be competing with Georgia, because Georgia have been winning it consistently. So, and Italy would certainly beat them teams. So if them teams aren't ever really going to be pushing to get promoted,
that's the thing.
What's the benefit?
Well, that's the thing. Like in the long term thing, actually, they could do it could expand their game and grow them if they know they've got that thing to gain. I mean, I was mainly talking more short term, probably, because I think that would be a thing folk might get bored of. Like, you know, eventually it's just. But I mean, long term, it is possible that these tier 2 nations will continue. I mean, a lot of them are continuing to get better. Anyway, so you know, so I mean, in long term it could be very exciting. Short term, I think it will have flaws if it's introduced. Of course, we don't know yet. And yeah, that's just I would think. I think we're mostly in favour of that.
Absolutely, and I think it's a really exciting time for rugby. I think the 2019 Rugby World Cup showed that a lot of teams are certainly
Uh-huh.
improving. A lot of teams were absolutely dreadful, though. Some teams were shocking to watch, but teams such as Japan deserve that opportunity to really push now and really go for it. Although half the team isn't Japanese, but that that's
Most
another
of them,
story, I believe.
most of them are. We're Scotland. We're worse to that. We have like about half our team isn't Scottish, so
You have about
I'm
five
not.
South Africans in your team.
No, I'm not gonna. I'm not. So I am going to refrain from having a pop at Japan or any other nation for that,
Yeah.
considering we're the worst. We're the worst offenders. So yeah, but I mean, I'm always on the boat of that. If you're good enough and you're qualified, you can play. I'm happy for you
Mm,
to wear a Scottish jersey, but I would have a preference for youth academy structures, and that's one
mm,
thing actually. I think I wouldn't be against Pichot, um, because there's I read it was a couple of years ago he wanted to introduce the 5 year residency rule instead of the three,
yeah.
which I'm in favour of, because I think there's a bit too many players coming over from
Mm,
the south like looking to get a good wage, and then 3 years later they're in the international jerseys of their adopted countries.
mm,
And I don't know. I think that devalues the international shirt a bit. I think
mm,
5 years would be a fair amount of
yeah.
time, and
Mm,
I would prefer like basically focusing more on homegrown talents, and
mm,
I would keep the grandparent rule in place. I'm happy. I'm no problems with that at all. But
mm.
the residency rule, yeah. I mean, I think it's to the point where there's too many players coming over and taking advantage of it, which I think. Yeah, so I think it would be so. Yeah, I'd be in favour of it being moved to 5 years, but
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
absolutely. I think like you look at like someone like Hadley Parks. We'll get onto transfers later, but he's been rumoured with a massive move to Japan. So he moved over to Wales, completed his residency, has won about I don't know, maybe like 30 caps now or so, something like that. And all of a sudden, he's offered a massive paycheck in Japan, and is thinking about that. And obviously, then he's not got the 50 cap, so he then would be ineligible to play for Wales.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of like I've got a video coming out doing a Wales tier list, and I talk about the squad and is who I think should be in the centre.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly believe that Hadley Parks is holding players like Owen Watkin back from really flourishing in that shirt. Because I think Owen Watkin offers us more. I don't think Hadley Parks. I think we bought him in because we had a bit of a crisis in the centre. But we still got some quality centres out there, man. You know, Jamie Roberts can still do a job. Although today,
I think he's
a few
class.
days ago, yeah, he said that he's probably not going to
Aye.
play international rugby again. But yeah, it's an interesting one that. But looking at Wales' squad, I mean, half of them aren't even Welsh either. But that's that. Um, but yeah, Pichot at the moment doesn't look likely to win. That's the honest truth about it. He at the minute I think is
Aye.
looking set to get about 14 votes, while Bill Bowman will get about 20.
Mm-hmm.
Wales earlier today came out and said they'll be supporting Bowman's, which is a shame to hear, I think. And maybe rugby is a little bit of a traditionalist sport in a sense that people like things to stay the same way. And I can understand that to an extent, but I do think for rugby to grow and to evolve and possibly even get onto Fortnite, as Pichot is talking about, I don't know if you've seen that. Have you seen that?
What? No, I didn't catch
Pichot
it.
wants to put Pichot wants to put rugby onto Fortnite.
What? What does that mean? Sorry, you need to elaborate.
So on the video game, he wants to get scenes where you can play rugby on it because you can get some sports on the video game
Oh,
already on Fortnite.
all right,
So
okay.
that's his idea. So
That's
that's what he
not the
wants to
worst one
do.
in the world. I wouldn't be
Yeah,
against.
but I think in a way rugby does need to evolve. I think it needs to become a lot more mainstream. I think it needs to find a way
Well, I
of
think
reaching an
that's the
audience.
thing. I think it's pretty mainstream anyway. I mean, you look at like even like 5 years ago, the Six Nations figures like they're like I don't know 10 million or something for the 2015 final weekend or something like that.
Mm.
They were a lot, and but I don't know why the government thing still has it as a B category sport rather than
Yeah,
an
yeah.
A category sport. I mean, it's still not as
Mm,
big as football, but I still think it gets a decent audience in. In terms of evolving, I mean, again, I don't know. Maybe just because I'm more a traditionalist, and I like and it's one of the things about professionalism which I don't like is it's too going too much away. I mean, I understand what you're saying. Like, there's things that need to evolve, but does evolution always equal better? Not
Yeah.
automatically. I mean,
Mm.
you just look at the way football is with its money. I don't know if you can call that evolving or that, just how much
Mm.
money's in the sport and the sort of what it does to some
Mm.
people in football,
Yeah.
and the
Mm.
way it kind of like also the sort of strictness of it. It just kind of goes away from. I mean, I
Mm.
watched. I don't know if you watched podcast with where Joe interviewed David Campezier.
No, I didn't
All
get a
right.
chance to, mate.
Great podcast, by the way. It's on All
Mm.
Talk Rugby page.
Yeah.
Link below. Yeah, but I was just interested listening to Campo basically saying that how rugby has gone, way rugby's gone. It's all about
Mm.
defense and the breakdowns and like being so structured and rigid, and it's like less about actual players. Just picking up a ball, like a player that Campo was, where he just like
Mm.
technically he maybe wasn't physically the toughest. He maybe wasn't the best tackler, but he just got the ball in
Mm.
his hands and he just
Run.
give him a little bit of space and he just ran and
Mm.
stepped and
Mm.
just like those sort of players are seem to be
Mm.
fading and fading
Mm.
more because like coaches just want to make players who are chapter and verse, and it's the same,
Mm.
and it's like that in football now. I mean, there's not.
Mm.
I mean, there's a few players like there's not that many. Maybe just below the top tier. I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like the Messi's,
Mm.
Ronaldo's,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that who
yeah.
are like in a league of their own. I'm talking about
Mm.
like just below that. There's not. You can't
Mm.
really say there's that many standout players
Mm.
that just get the ball and just like express themselves and make opponents look stupid. It's like there's all very structured and that in
Mm.
football, and I'm fearing rugby's going that way as well, where coaches don't
Mm.
like players to go off script too much.
Mm. I guess maybe that's because there's so much at stake, isn't there, in the game today?
Yeah,
There's
most of it
again, as
down
you
to
said,
money,
exactly,
which is
that's it,
sad.
money. But that's the reality, and we have to live with that reality. We can't pretend that it's not a reality because it is. Like rugby, there's a lot of money in it. You think about, especially at international level, that's something that football does I can't say it, differentiate from us with, is that the internationals first are the real money maker for the Welsh Rugby Union. It's the real money maker. Club level, Ospreys would be lucky to get in 3,000 a week, but with a Six Nations game, it's likely to sell out 74,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the real money maker for me. Your comments about seeing different style of players, yeah, absolutely. But I do think there's still a lot about, and I actually think that we are beginning to see a little bit something different now, where we will hopefully see some more open rugby. I generally believe we will, because as defences get better, attacks have to get better. You've got to come up with innovative ways. The way of literally
but
running
most of it you still see now is like when they get to like the try line of this, it's just still keep picking and going,
yeah.
and but the thing is, like, that kind of like annoys me a little bit, and understand why maybe a neutral would find that a bit boring. Like if you just see him picking and going just to try and get to the line, because like the actual picking and going is meant to open up the space out wide for for attackers to beat defenses and to create overlaps and to put holes in the defense, and you're just seeing that. In my opinion, too often of whether it's on a driving ball, or it goes short. It just constantly picking and going just to try and get the try that way. And it's to me, it's moving a bit further and further away from actually like shifting the ball wide. Even though like the principle's still there, but in terms of what a lot of coaches at the highest level seem to be wanting, it seems to have gone away from that a wee bit. So
yeah, I sort of agree with you, and I sort of don't. I do think we are beginning to see a little bit more. As I said, as defences get better, attacks will have to get better, have to come up with more innovative ways. Unfortunately, sometimes that does translate to a lot more kicking in the game. But again, some kicks can work really well up and under and things like that. Let's move on to transfers. A couple of transfers that I want to get through.
Sorry, Brandon. Can I just say, like, so are we?
Yeah.
So who are we leaning on with Pichot or Beaumont?
I personally would prefer Pichot,
really?
but
Okay.
He's not going to win. So
I'm leaning a bit towards Beaumont, but basically just because I don't know, actually, just because some of Pichot's ideas, like, I just think are maybe a little bit too radical. I mean, I'm in favour of the 5-year one, as I said, but in terms of like Bill Bowman maybe still a bit traditionalist in some ways. But
Mm.
one thing I want to ask you is how would you feel about Wales getting 8 internationals around the November time, which I think is stretching. Well, October, November time, obviously,
Uh,
but I think that's
well,
stretching it a bit.
yeah. I think obviously as a fan you want to see as much international rugby as possible, but you are very concerned about player welfare. At the end of the day, if these players want to be playing well at international level and being picked, they need to play well at club level. If they get injured over one of them games and they're out for the rest of the season for the club, it doesn't help the club at all. It doesn't help. Um, let's take the Dragons for instance. The Dragons have made significant improvements over the Pro 14 season under Dean Ryan. We've seen some good performances, some last gasp wins, mostly against us, the Ospreys, because we've been absolutely shite. So there you go. Sam Davis coming back to haunt us. But for the Dragons, their international players are crucial for them. They make such a difference. Aaron Wainwright, Sam Davis now, they make such a difference to that team. So if they get injured in one of them international games, because they've thrown 8 in for no reason, really, I don't know. I'd be really pissed off if I was a Dragons fan thinking we've had a really good start to the season. We're having some progress for the first time, maybe in the past 5 to 6 years, and yet one of our best players gets injured because they decided to put another international on. So we have to think about player welfare. As you say, players are putting their bodies through so much week in, week out.
Yeah.
And the idea of having a break, so having a winter break, maybe having a break in January up in the Northern Hemisphere, is not something that I'd be against. I think it would give a good opportunity for players to rest, because at the end of the season, they can put their body through so much. Come to the end of the season, and their bodies are smashed and bruised, and they need surgery again. So having this break would probably be a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I've been in favour of it, especially in nations like France, where the top 14 is just brutal and relentless, and there's just. But the thing is, again, a lot of that's just come down to money for the most part. So, but it's the way it is, I guess. But yeah, okay. Do you want to move on to transfers then? I'll let you.
Yeah, we got a few transfers to get through. First of all, John Barclay leaving Edinburgh. I saw a post you put on Facebook about him saying that you thought he was past his best. Do you think this is the end for him? Do you think he'll retire, or do you think he'll head somewhere else?
I wouldn't be surprised if he goes into a player coaching role somewhere. Whether that's going to be at the semi-pro Super Six league we have in Scotland. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes there, or if he goes somewhere down south, maybe an English second division clubs possibly. I've no indications of where he's actually going yet, but I think as a player he's not. I mean, it's kind of sad me to say it, because he was possibly the best back row Scotland had for a while ago. Even in 2015 when he wasn't considered for the World Cup squad. And he had a few. The SRU didn't like him for a period for some reason, which I'm not going to go into, but it is what it is. But since he got that Achilles injury playing for the Scarlets in 2018, he came back from that. He's just. I mean, at the World Cup, he just saw him. He just doesn't look the same player. He just looks. He just doesn't look as fit. He's not as sharp. He's not. Doing making the impact at the breakdown that he used to do. I just kind of think and at Edinburgh he's not played that much. He's been the first choice in the back row since he moved, really. So I think his best days are behind him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to he goes as a player coach to one of the places I said to. But I mean, I've no like I said, I don't know where he's going, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, back in his Scarlets days, he was a fantastic player, wasn't he? Making a real difference for Scotland. And I thought he was a really good captain. And I don't think he's a bad pundit either. He talks a bit of sense sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to another Scotsman, Sean Maitland, looking likely to leave Savis, joining up with Glasgow or Edinburgh. These are just rumours, by the way. I'll put links to where you can find these rumours and who is sourcing them. But yeah, so Sean Maitland heading back to Scotland. Is that a good thing for Scottish rugby?
I'm personally not fully in favour of it, just because I'd rather see like a younger player coming through at Glasgow and Edinburgh. Whereas like Sean Maitland, obviously he's a great player, and if you're if all you care about is just watching Glasgow on a Saturday or a Wednesday or whenever it is, and you just want a player who's very professional, going to do a decent job, and play well and maybe score you some tries and be reliable, then Sean Maitland's your man. But I just think, from Glasgow's point of view, I'd rather them try and look more to youth. I mean, there are some good players there. I mean, Kyle Staines, South African born, but Scottish now. Kyle Staines, a good prospect. There's Stafford McDowell, albeit Stafford McDowell's a centre. And there's still, there's still like some players in the back three who are like wing and fullback, that is, who are up and coming, but they're not there yet. I'd rather look at them getting pushed on rather than bringing Sean Maitland back to Scotland. But again, also it comes from his point as well. Does Sean want to come home? Well, I say home because he's a Maori boy, obviously, he's a New Zealander. But if he wants to come back to Scotland, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I personally wouldn't, but that's just me. So.
And we're going to see a lot of players leaving Sarries, aren't we? Obviously, Liam Williams has come back to the Scarlets. Moving on to another Sarries player, Nick Tompkins, was looking likely to join Cardiff Blues, but that seems to have fallen through. And so Dragons are looking to swoop in on him. I think this would be a heck of a coup for the Dragons, a real statement. It'd be a real statement of intent. You got Sam Davis at 10, Hodrie Williams at 9. You got players such as Basham in the team, Aaron Wainwright, Ollie Griffiths, Hodrie Williams at fullback. Really exciting team there with a real good foundation. The only issue I would think for Dragons would be finance, but you'd think that the Welsh Rugby Union would help them with that. You'd assume so, to get one of their players back. You've spoken about him coming back on loan. What do you think about this move for the Dragons? I personally think it'd be an incredible move.
If it's a loan move, I mean, I think they could be able to fund that. Okay, I think it would be a great move for the Dragons. I think good move for Welsh rugby as well, around that region of Wales. No, I mean, because I think obviously we saw what Nick Tompkins is capable of, both for Saracens and with Wales. I still think he could be better as a 12 when Jonathan Davis is back fit again. I think Nick Tompkins has a bit more of a 12 about him. At 13, he's he can do so. He does some good things, but he's also I just not convinced yet that's his best position. But again, like for the Dragons, I think it would be I'm agreeing with you. It would be a good signing if they can get him. So
definitely. And finally, Hadley Parks. Oh, makes my blood boil, this one. Hadley Parks rumoured to be moving to Japan. He's been offered a huge contract, I think, at Cobley Steelers, where New Zealand number 8, forgot his name, Kieran Reid. Kieran Reid is playing on a massive deal. So obviously money talks, and he's now 32, nearly 33. So he's thinking possibly the end of his career, thinking about that final payday, thinking about his family, etc., setting up for life. But yeah, he came over to Wales, obviously joined the Scarlets, completed his residency, has had just about 30 caps. Personally, I think he's holding back the likes of Owen Watkin and Nick Tompkins. I think that this is now the time for him to step aside. So I'd actually be okay with him going, but it would piss me off because it feels like he's come in. He hasn't really stuck with the project of Wales. He's just like, right, someone's offered me a ridiculous amount of money. It's time for me to go. I can understand why he's doing it in a way, but it still pisses me off. So what do you think? Hadley Parks leaving is a good move for him and for the Scarlets and for Wales?
Well, to be honest, as you say, I mean, if that amount of money, it's easy to knock him, but if either of us were on the same boat, probably wouldn't hold back either. But for him, I don't know. That depends on his family circumstances. I don't know much about that, so I'm not gonna go into detail there. But I think, I mean, it depends. I thought this all comes down to Wales. I think if he wants to keep his options open, if he wants to keep playing for Wales right through to possibly the next World Cup, where it'd be 36 if he does. Good luck to him if he does want to play the next World Cup. So I just say if he wants to keep playing for Wales, stay in Wales, stay with the Scarlets. If he's wanting to get his pension early, then Japan wouldn't be a bad move for a couple of years, just to finish his career off. Did quite well for the likes of we all, obviously New Zealanders, we know, likes of Carter, Nonu, Smith went to France and others as well. So Yeah, I think
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I thought. My thoughts there.
Yeah, and finally, Dan Carter, you just mentioned him, likely to leave Copley Steelers, linked with a big move to Major League Rugby. The most likely destination is Rugby United New York, where Ben Foden is at. I think this will be an incredible coup for Major League Rugby. We've seen the league really grow,
Mm-hmm.
and we've seen players such as Nonu go out there, and Ben Foden, as I
Yeah,
said before, and many
Basteros.
other.
Sorry, Basteros playing there as well, isn't he?
He
Yeah.
was out there, but he's come back now. But what it's done is he went out there. He only had a year left on his Lyon contract, and he's gone back and he's got actually another contract back in France now
Okay.
for
Okay.
playing out in Major League Rugby. The league is not the highest quality, but it's a new league. It's sustainable, which is the big thing. So
Well,
they've tried
money.
different things in the past. Exactly. So they've tried different things in the past, but this seems to work. It's competitive, and there's generally a real interest in it over in the States. I think this would be incredible. Obviously, with everything that's going on in the world now with the coronavirus, it's very difficult to predict anything at all, and who knows when rugby will be back. But yeah, I think this would be an incredible coup for MLR for sure.
Yeah, no. If for the sake of their game and growing the game in the States, I think yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I think Dan Carter would be a good move there. It would again from Dan Carter's own point of view, it would raise his profile more over there, get put more in the pension fund, and even though he's not that he needs anymore, I don't think, but I can't blame him if he does. Yeah, I think yeah, I'm again that's up to Dan Carter, and I think he'd do American rugby a good service by going over there and helping them out.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's pretty much anything. Anything else you want to add?
Nothing off the top of my head, Brandon. To be honest, I think we've covered mostly anything. If you want to do another one of these again, that'd be absolutely fine.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments on Pichot against Bowman, who you want to win. Relegation promotion, let us know you're for, against, and these transfers as well. We'll see you in a bit.
Okay, take care.